bird baths, basketballs, and manure. Dig through how DC's public schools spent millions in federal COVID relief money, and you'll find these items listed under educational supplies.
The football team got all this new equipment, and that would kind of make you go,
Junior Alina King told us her school has more urgent needs.
There are some classrooms that are freezing, and then there are some classrooms that are unbelievably hot. And then that makes you want to be like, oh no, I'm not going into that class.
To see how DC schools are spending their share of the COVID relief money, the 7 News I-team first spent months getting and then reviewing thousands of DC's financial records. Among our findings, more than $1 million to buy tents, metal chairs, and picnic tables. School administrators spent more than $95,000 replacing and repairing the district's copy machines. The sample of records we reviewed show more than $45,000 used to buy basketball nets, footballs, soccer balls, bird baths, and manure. DC school leadership tells us these items helped students and staff transition back into school for in-person learning and enhanced school outdoor spaces. Is this what you think this money should be used for?
Absolutely not. That's ridiculous to spend money on manure.
The National Parents Union's Tashfir Cosby told us students, teachers, and parents have much more urgent needs.
When you're thinking about children who can't read, right, you're thinking about literacy levels being the lowest that they've been in years, and thinking about supports for children's mental and social and emotional health. There definitely needed to be some conversation with the community about the way that the community wanted to spend this money and the way that the money was actually being spent.
When the pandemic first shut down schools, Congress and then the Trump and Biden administrations, they wanted to get money to schools quickly. So they prioritized sending $190 billion to schools with few strings attached. According to the U.S. Department of Education, funds can be used to support a wide range of activities. Among them, technology for online learning, planning for both school closures and reopening, cleaning supplies, mental health services, summer learning, and after-school programs. And D.C. schools did spend millions of dollars buying computers, securing internet connections, and buying cleaning supplies. But they also spent millions renting equipment. They even rented a stadium. D.C. schools used $177,000 of federal COVID money renting D.C.'s soccer stadium. Graduation ceremonies were spread over days to social distance. Pictures from the event show School Chancellor Louis Farabee addressing an almost empty house. Shots of the stands show not much social distancing.
We'll try to make some time for you.
The chancellor refused to talk with us about his spending decisions, but the new chair of the House Education Committee had a lot to say about what we found.
Spending $177,000 to rent Audi Field for graduation is absolutely ridiculous.
Loudoun County Superintendent Dr. Aaron Spence has been on the job for 2 months, and now questions are being raised if the school board should let him go after he didn't notify the community for weeks about several student overdoses involving fentanyl. The community didn't know until Sheriff Mike Chapman warned the community about the specific overdoses involving students at Parkview High School. After 7 News is reporting on the overdoses, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin issued an executive order the next day directing schools to notify parents about overdoses within 24 hours.
This is something parents must know. This is something that speaks directly to the safety, well-being, and education of children.
Spence's first known public communication about the overdoses was an email sent Wednesday evening, around the time that Youngkin announced his executive order.
7 News has been trying to get the superintendent to speak to us about those overdoses for nearly 2 weeks. Tonight, 7 News' Nick Minock joins us live in Purcellville, where that meeting was held. So, Nick, did the superintendent explain why it took several weeks to notify families about those overdoses?
Well, I think he tried to. A lot of parents inside Woodgrove High School at this listening session wanted to know why it took Dr. Aaron Spence weeks to notify the public about several student fentanyl overdoses at Parkview High School and Sterling. And you could tell some of the parents were getting frustrated because they felt like they weren't getting a straight answer from the superintendent. So 7 News tried asking that question ourselves. Superintendent Spence, why did it take you so long to notify the public about fentanyl overdoses? Sir, why did it take you so long?
Nick, we're not going to do this tonight. Put the camera away. You and I go sit down and have coffee, and we'll talk about your approach to journalism, Nick. Okay?
Why did it take you so long to notify the parents about the fentanyl overdoses? You didn't know about the overdoses late September? Do you think you have improved transparency as the new superintendent?
Yes.
By not notifying the public about fentanyl overdoses? When?
As soon as I became aware of it, I put a team to work on it.
Are you going to comply with the governor's executive order to notify parents within 24 hours of fentanyl overdoses? Sir?
Jonathan, these parents are outraged that this former middle school principal was promoted to a high school principal position despite the allegations.
Next up, we have appointment of Dr. Joel Beidelman as principal of Paint Branch High School.
This longtime Montgomery County Public Schools educator received a warm endorsement from the Board of Education at this meeting on June 27th.
All in favor, raise your hand. And that's unanimous.
Every school board member approved of the promotion of Dr. Joel Beidelman from principal of Farkyard Middle to Paint Branch High School principal, despite numerous allegations of sexual harassment, threats, and retaliation, as well as workplace bullying.
MCPS is losing more and more trust as the days go by.
A Washington Post investigation reveals at least 18 verbal or written reports were submitted to MCPS concerning Beidelman from staff, parents, and union representatives that date back to 2016. Dawn Ayanako Hahn is a recent MCPS school board candidate who has a 12-year-old son who attends Farkyard Middle School.
The kids really loved him. Like, my son was really devastated by that because he was like, but he was such a great principal, Mom. So I had to explain to him that there is a difference between him being a good principal to them and him being a good principal leader to his staff.
The public demands openness and transparency.
For the very first time, Montgomery County Council members publicly questioned School Board Chair Carla Silvestri and Superintendent Dr. Monifa McKnight over how key staff members promoted former Principal Joel Beidelman, despite at least 18 allegations of harassment and bullying being leveled against him.
This has been a very difficult pill to swallow and egregious when you think about the responsibility that we, the Board of Education, and I have in that process.
An independent report looking into this scandal, released earlier this month, noted significant and troubling failures by school management, including the stunning finding that the school system does not consider informal complaints in the promotion process. Council President Evan Glass read to a hushed audience an anonymous complaint made in 2022 against Beidelman.
Quote, he has made comments about women's chest sizes. Quote, he frequently looks women up and down before talking to them. How many people have to come forward and say, me too, until something is done?
We also learned the school system deletes emails after a year, a practice that may have buried critical information in this case.
It's unbelievable. And consequently, and not surprisingly, trust has really been eroded.
Dr. McKnight and Chair Silvestri say while they were not aware of these allegations against Beidelman during his promotion process, they are working tirelessly to correct a process some council members say has failed teachers, parents, and students.
I am disappointed. If there have been failures in the system, and there have been, that makes me very unhappy. I am disturbed.
It's been a tough first week for students and families who depend on Prince George's County school buses to get to and from school. 7 News on your side, documenting afternoon pickups an hour and a half after dismissal time. We've seen buses delivering students to school in the morning 40 minutes late. And the system has revealed 217 bus routes don't have assigned drivers. Now, the system's new superintendent is responding.
What I'm committed to do is to, first of all, acknowledge that there are some issues.
Millard House meets us at the PGCPS bus lot in Fairmont Heights. He's only been on the job for 2 months. He inherited the problems he's learning about now, but is pledging to do better where for years there has been little improvement. What's the impact on academics when kids are dropped off at school so late in the morning?
So a child can't learn if they're not in a state of mind where they feel good.
Are you distressed to know that the vacancy rate is higher this year than it was last year, that there was no progress made?
It's definitely not something that you want to see, but I think what we have to focus on is what the solutions are. And in my 90-day plan, I'm focused on listening, I'm focused on learning, I'm focused on ensuring that we understand what our issues are.
Already, since our first story aired this week, the system has, for the first time, added to their website what they say is a complete list of bus routes without drivers. That is something neighboring districts have been doing since the driver shortage became an issue. He also says he's open to an audit of his transportation department and to seeking outside help.
We want to make sure that we take a close look at how we can address our ridership and make sure that we have dependable timing, dependable bell schedules, everything that goes along with making sure students are college and career ready.
Buses arriving late in the morning and getting kids home late in the afternoon, or not even arriving at all. Prince George's County Schools still short 200 bus drivers with nearly 200 bus routes unstaffed. The situation's so bad, one mom documenting the horror stories in a spreadsheet, where one parent simply says it's horrid. The spreadsheet creator saying they've had enough.
I think the frustration is starting to boil over.
Now, the superintendent of schools is telling the county council and those parents some help is coming.
Whatever it takes, our goal is to get better in reference to this service.
Testifying before the council education subcommittee, Superintendent Millard House and his transportation team reporting that an outside audit has begun, revealing an expected timetable for recommendations with a focus on making sure the problems are gone by next fall.
So we're pushing to do everything to make sure that this service is a service that people appreciate and not dread.
In the short term, House says to stop using full-size buses to transport single special needs students. PGCPS is renting 16 passenger vans now and buying 16 more in the spring to be staffed by drivers who won't need commercial driver's licenses. And they're also hiring an outside contractor to transport an additional group of students with special circumstances like homelessness.
It's not about, what we're used to doing. It's about what efficiencies we can provide that are the best for the school district.
For parents like Patrick Pashal, whose child was delivered to school 45 minutes late today, the plan is at least progress where there had been none.
I'm disappointed that they haven't done this before. Obviously, the bus problem has been a problem for years and years here in Prince George's County, and it is getting worse every year. So I appreciate that they're undertaking some efforts at the underlying structural problems. But what we need right now as parents is communication from the schools.
Superintendent saying the system will get better with communication as well, saying from now on, if a bus is late, a parent will be notified by phone, text, or email. With regard to the audit, we are told that the results will be made public somewhere around the end of the year. In Fairmount Heights, Brad Bell, 7 News.
I'm clearly with ABC.
Next time.
This is how we were greeted at one of DC's longtime school bus contractors' parking lots. Are you the head of Rome Charters?
I'm Leon Ballas. Get the out.
We'd been trying to connect with Rome Charters LLC about how management vets its drivers and maintains its buses. Last fall, one of its school buses carrying DC kindergartners home from a field trip hit a curb and blew a tire. Fairfax County Police say the driver was drunk, and that's not all. Police say the drivers sent to pick up the stranded kids were unlicensed, and the buses they pulled up in were leaking fuel.
So this is very concerning, and I believe this is something that the DC public schools are going to be taking very seriously.
DC schools had been using the Maryland-based bus company for years. Signed contracts show Rome Charters LLC shuttled DC's kids to class, sporting events, and field trips since at least 2018. But that appears to be the last time anyone kicked the tires on this bus company.
There's significant concerns about their operation given what we know now.
After finding an alleged drunk driver behind the wheel of one of its buses, D.C. government suspended Rome Charters LLC from doing business in Washington. But in the months leading up to that suspension, school district account records show hundreds of thousands of dollars paid to that bus company. And it all came out of their COVID relief fund. Between December of 2021 and July 2022, DC school account records show more than $830,000 from the district's COVID relief fund paid to Rome Charters LLC. Did anybody actually do any due diligence on this contract?
I think it's a valid concern.
Georgetown University's Chad Alderman has been following federal COVID relief money in local schools. So far, he's traced $40 to $60 billion nationally to private companies like Rome Charters LLC.
If they trust a vendor and said, well, they did good work for us last time, so they'll probably do good work for us this time, and don't check again, all those things are maybe shortchanging the vetting process.
When we did some vetting of our own, we found Rome Charters' operating license suspended 3 times since it signed that 2018 contract. That includes while DC schools paid the bus company out of its COVID relief account. Oversight documents show Rome Charters insurance expired for 22 days in May 2022. DC school bank records show over $93,000 in payments during that time. Rome Charters LLC didn't return calls about its business practices. We already gave you a preview of what happened when we showed up at their bus lot.
We have called 3 times. We've called 3 times.
Get out.
Called 3 times.
Well, get out.
Well, only on 7 News, a new ruling from Virginia's Department of Education is spotlighting major concerns about how special education students are being treated. They've ruled that Prince William County violated certain state and federal special education requirements. 7 News' Christian Flores spoke with 2 parents at the center of this controversy as part of our ongoing Crisis in the Classroom coverage.
It's not that we're asking for preferential treatment or to be treated better than, it's to have equal access.
That's why Dr. Kimberly Melman Orozco filed a complaint against Prince William County Schools. Her daughter Mia has dyslexia, but was not provided accommodations when she applied for a specialty theater program at Colgan High School.
No accommodation whatsoever was provided. And there are a number of accommodations that have been deemed appropriate for persons that are applying to theater programs. For example, having scripts in different, different types of scripts, so not just written, but auditory.
And the state agreed. In June, the Virginia Department of Education ruled the school district had a fundamental misunderstanding of their responsibility to special education students and systemically denied necessary accommodations. Melman Orozco found out she was not alone.
She was in just an immense amount of pain in her hand. It's in her hand and in her arm.
Yesenia Lassiter's daughter, Bella, also utilizes special education for dyslexia and a condition in her arm that requires chemotherapy medication.
It gets worse during times of like any type of growth. So like when she hit a growth spurt, puberty, that kind of thing.
Bella also applied for a specialty program at Colgan for art.
No accommodations were given, which, I thought also was a little unfair because Bella was still doing chemo meds.
Bella and Mia were both denied admission to the specialty program. Their parents saying it was because of the lack of accommodations. The state ruled the school district must now provide special education accommodations for specialty program applications and allow students to reapply.
Are they going to make it right? Are they going to allow the kids to reapply? What are they going to do for all the kids for the last 4 years that were erroneously denied accommodations and erroneously denied access to the program?
7 News on Your Side sought those answers for her, asking the school district those specific questions. They said they could not respond because they're still appealing the state's ruling, but they did claim 70% of special education students who applied for the specialty programs were admitted, and they are committed to a policy of non-discrimination.
It's been emotionally draining, mentally draining. Really, honestly, truly, the last 2 years have been the toughest years of our lives, having to deal with not just my daughter's medical issues, but with the school system.
When I read those words, that they had a fundamental misunderstanding and that there was systemic violations, you're darn right I felt vindicated.
The timeline of events in a newly unsealed independent review of Loudoun County Public Schools highlights the shortcomings, the blind spots, and the miscommunication that for years has outraged the parents of a young sexual assault victim.
It clearly shows how both the Loudoun County School and the Sheriff's Department screwed up very badly and dropped the ball and did not communicate with one another.
Scott Smith has been calling for a more thorough and transparent system ever since his daughter, then 15 years old, was assaulted in a bathroom at Stonebridge High School in 2021. And in this review, 7 News identified several missed opportunities that he feels may have prevented a second assault from happening. The first incident was reported at Stonebridge High School on May 28, 2021. A little over a month later, on July 2nd, the offending teen is charged with 2 counts of sexual assault and is arrested a few days later. Throughout this time, LCPS never investigates the allegations, believing that they have to wait for the sheriff's office to complete their investigation first. Several administrators even said they feared arrest if they proceeded. So LCPS takes no steps in its Title IX investigation until nearly 3 months after the incident.
Everybody is stuck in their silos, and they're not communicating with one another, which led to these horrific situations.
According to the review, LCPS is completely in the dark even about the charges. That is until the offending teen's mother tells them in mid to late August that he cannot return to Stonebridge because of a court order stemming from his charges. Then in late August, right around the start of the new school year, the Stonebridge principal recommends an involuntary transfer to Broad Run, and it's completed. But other than the Broad Run principal frequently checking in with the teen and asking teachers to let him know of any issues, no further safety measures are taken. Then, just 6 weeks after that transfer, the offending teen is accused and charged for a second incident, this time for sexual battery and abduction after pulling a female student into an empty classroom. Now, with more urgency, LCPS starts its Title IX investigation about a week later, but starts with the second incident. And a week after that, finally start investigating the first incident at Stonebridge.
People don't take what this report says and what's been getting said over the last year and a half, or 2.5 years rather. Then it's all for nothing. We need change.
The Loudoun County Sheriff's Office is defending its actions tonight, saying detectives acted to protect the identity of the victims and the integrity of criminal investigations to make sure that the victims got justice. However, they have made changes because of all of this. Tonight, they released a statement that reads in part, a new memorandum of understanding between the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office and Loudoun County Public Schools was approved on June 13, 2023.
7 News has obtained a disturbing video that was taken at Stonebridge High School in Loudoun County just days after a 2021 sexual assault. Now, that attack launched a nationwide discussion about how school districts handle sexual assaults.
We have a lot of questions for the Loudoun County Sheriff. His school resource officer in the cell phone video admits to not allowing a Loudoun County family to leave and take their daughter, who was just assaulted, to the sheriff's office. Here's I-Team investigator Scott Taylor with the exclusive.
What did I do? You're watching a cell phone video recorded on June 1st, 2021, just 4 days after the daughter of Scott and Jessica Smith was sexually assaulted in a bathroom at Stonebridge High School in Loudoun County. Mom and Dad are back at Stonebridge because their daughter called and said a promised safety plan wasn't in place on her first day back to class. The Smiths, escorted by a Loudoun County Sheriff's deputy, came face-to-face with school resource officer Tavis Henry, who's also a deputy with the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office. On the day of the attack, the Smiths tell 7 News they asked Officer Henry multiple times if they could leave Stonebridge and take their daughter to the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office, only 9 miles away. You know what the first thing I asked you was? Why can't I take my wife and daughter, and he was involved in this too, why can't I take my wife and daughter to the Sheriff's Department? And what did you guys say? That investigation needs to happen here. You can't take your daughter because it happened here. Correct, did you not say that? Correct, because did you say that? Correct. Officer Henry's boss, Loudoun County Sheriff Mike Chapman, has refused for months to meet with 7 News and view the cell phone video, plus answer questions on camera. Sheriff Chapman emailed saying the family was not detained and were free to leave at any time. Watch the cell phone video again. It appears to tell a different story. You know what the first thing I asked you was? Why can't I take my wife and daughter, and he was involved in this too, why can't I take my wife and daughter to the Sheriff's Department? And what did you guys say? That investigation needs to happen here. You can't take your daughter because it happened here. Correct. On the day of the attack, the Smiths say they had to wait almost 2 hours before they were allowed to leave Stonebridge and speak to detectives with the Sheriff's Special Victims Unit, who are in charge of investigating sexual assaults. The Sheriff's Office claims it was an hour and 29-minute wait.
This officer, this deputy, needed to call SVU immediately.
The Smiths filed a complaint against Officer Henry on August 24th, 2022. It took the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office just 5 days to investigate and send the Smiths this letter stating an investigation was conducted and the results are not being made public. Scott Smith is still asking why the school was never locked down right after the attack.
They allowed a rapist to run the halls. You know, they found him trying to sneak home on the school bus. I mean, what kind of security is that?
A special grand jury created by the Virginia Attorney General's office to investigate the assault believed the school should have been locked down. In its report, it was dismayed at the lack of concern regarding the assailant being at large in the school for over 3 hours. The sheriff's office says only school officials can lock down a school, and school policy states only a law enforcement officer can lift a lockdown. Officer Henry told the Smiths in the cell phone video he had to finish his report on the day of the attack before they could leave.
You would not let me take my family to the sheriff's department.
But I explained to you when I said I have to do at least my totality of my report.
You detained them. You detained them here.
Officer Henry's initial investigation at the school, according to Jessica Smith, included him asking just one question to their teenage daughter. The sexual assault really happened, right?
I feel that the SRO didn't believe the victim, which led to all the failures there.
The school district hired its legal counsel to investigate the sexual assault. Its report stated Scott Smith arrived at Stonebridge on the day of the attack and began shouting and took an aggressive step towards a principal.
I don't think I was aggressive. I think I was upset, and they were also keeping my wife and child from me.
Officer Henry has not responded to our request for an interview.
My daughter had just been raped. You know, where are the law enforcement? Where are the paramedics?
Sheriff Chapman didn't directly answer a lot of my questions, including, did he ever reach out to the Smith family after the sexual assault? The Smiths tell me after more than 2 years, they've never heard from Sheriff Chapman. For the I-Team, Scott Taylor, 7 News.